Last month, a jury found Mohamud Bulle guilty of 2 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct and 1 count of kidnapping for an attack that occurred in October of 2013. This morning, he was sentenced to 187 months on the sexual assault, 48 months on the kidnapping, to be served consecutively for a total of 235 months. Before talking about this case, I want to provide you with some background on the initiative which enables all of us to be here today talking about justice for the victim of a horrific assault that happened in 2013. In 2019, the Minneapolis auditor discovered over 1,700 untested sexual assault kits at the Minneapolis Police Department. These kits contained biological evidence which could possibly be tested for DNA. The failure to test these sexual assault kits left many victims without answers, closure, or justice for years. In 2020, the federal government funded grants through the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative, or SAKI as it's often referred to. And this allowed justice partners to target that particular backlog. After receiving the grant, a multidisciplinary team was established, including representatives from the Hennepin-County Attorney's Office, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and the Minneapolis Police Department. The project initially tackled 1,758 of the backlogged sexual assault kits in the Minneapolis Police Department. To date, all of the backlogged kits have been reviewed, and all suitable sexual assault kits have been analyzed and/or tested at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. And that is what happened in this case. DNA testing by itself does not necessarily enable us to prosecute a case. We often need the testimony of the victim. For the victim, Melissa Zimmerman, and her loved ones, this result took far too long, and I'm sorry. I can't imagine having to relive this terrible assault so long after it happened. She courageously came to court and testified in front of the man responsible for harming her. As a result of her testimony, the jury returned a guilty verdict, and this man will be incarcerated for years, unable to harm anyone else. A bystander, Terry, who we have here with us today, came to Ms. Zimmerman's aid. He also testified, and he made our case even stronger. Terry didn't have a permanent home, and he made numerous sacrifices to be here to testify for the trial. Terry is a member of our community who saw another human being in distress, cared enough to help her, and he was determined to be here to testify. Thank you, Terry. While accountability for this crime has taken too long to achieve, I want to acknowledge the partnerships that made it possible. Today, I am proud to stand with members of our team, Catherine Knutson, the head of the DNA lab at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the head of investigations, DC Emily Olson. They have been integral partners to the SAKI initiative. Since 2020, our offices have worked together on the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative to seek accountability for victims who waited far too long for answers. In the last 5 years, we have worked through more than 1,700 backlogged sexual assault kits, reestablished contact with and provided resources for victims, and filed criminal charges in cases where there have been DNA hits that allowed us to move forward. And now, every outstanding sexual assault kit from the 1990s through 2015 has been reviewed. The work done by the BCA Forensic Science Services Division in this case and others has been absolutely critical. Catherine Knutson, the Deputy Superintendent of the division, is here with us today, and I want to thank her and her forensic scientists who helped with this conviction and for their work. Sorry about that. So we had intended to have Deputy Chief Blackwell, or Assistant Chief Blackwell here, so I keep defaulting to her name. So DC Emily Olson is here with us today. MPD has been a valuable partner in the SAKI investigation and prosecution, so we want to thank MPD for their partnership in this as well. The first conviction from this initiative was secured in 2023, and each has been the result of the collaboration and partnership between our offices. I want to thank Christina Warren, our lead prosecutor in these cases, standing behind me, attorney Stephen Grego, and our entire trial team, Abby Boyce, Drea Sortillan, both legal service specialists attached to the Saki initiative, also deserve special mention for their compassionate work with the victim and her family. And Darcy Horn, who's in the back there, who has provided integral investigation in these cases as well. Thank you all so much for your work. You made this result possible. Our office will continue to partner with MPD and the BCA as we seek accountability in other cases like this one. I want to end by saying to Melissa Zimmerman and to all those victims who had to wait years to have their cases examined, I am so sorry. You deserve to have your cases prioritized and taken seriously. Nothing can make up for the time you had to wait and for the way your cases were treated. But I want you to know that we will continue to prioritize these cases for those who are harmed by sexual assault with the support, resources, and dignity they deserve. Melissa Zimmerman.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa. I just wanted to thank Christina and Abby. They've been my rock over the last year. Abby first reached out to me just over a year ago with quite a Pandora's box of information. My husband had attempted for months after to follow up. We were told that it was waiting results. Turns out that it never went anywhere. I assumed after months of no reply that my kit just didn't have DNA evidence. Turns out that that was wrong. It just never got tested. And they were able to find, Darcy found Terry, the gentleman who called 911 for me that night. And these teams, I wanted to give up a lot. Girls out there, getting a rape test kit done isn't easy. It's scary. But you know what? If I wouldn't have done it that day, I wouldn't have been able to send a horrible, horrible person to jail finally, through the support of everybody up here, obviously. So I just wanted everybody to know that I appreciate all the time and the resources. And it's amazing how one awful person can just waste so much time, energy, and resources. And so I'm glad that, the jury found him guilty, and that they were able to take into account all of the evidence that everybody was able to piece together after such a long time. Thank you.
I just wanted to acknowledge that Melissa's husband, Adam, is also here with us. Questions?
Is there any way someone could describe what the testing entails? I imagine it doesn't happen overnight, and you have such a backlog of these. Could you kind of explain to our viewers what this kind of looks like?
Yeah. Why don't we have Catherine Knutson?
Good morning, thank you. My name again is Kathy Knutson, Deputy Superintendent at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. The BCA, first of all, would like to extend our condolences and our appreciation for Ms. Zimmerman in this case. We are keenly aware that every single sexual assault kit represents a life that has been turned upside down in one way, shape, or form. So we are very committed to making sure that those kits, when they are submitted to the BCA, are given the utmost attention and are tested to the completion so that we can get those answers out to the law enforcement who are relying on those results in a timely fashion. So for a general kit, when it comes in, they generally are consisting of DNA samples or biological samples that are collected at the hospital generally from a sexual assault nurse examiner. And at that point, we have some protocols where we analyze each of those samples to determine whether or not DNA is available that could be appropriated to the individual who had perpetrated the crime. And at that point in time, we utilize the Convicted Offender DNA Database, or CODIS, as well as other search parameters that we can use to try and narrow down the focus of who may be involved in the case. Does that answer your question? Probably. Thank you.
And, you know, I mentioned Darcy Horn, who's sitting back there once, and I also mentioned that a DNA hit alone doesn't necessarily allow us to prosecute. That has happened in some circumstances, but it also usually requires us or somebody to do investigation to follow up. As Ms. Zimmerman said, Darcy found our witness here, and she did a great job finding him, and he was wonderful in agreeing to come forward. Yes.
Hi, Paul Walsh with the Star Tribune, and the criminal complaint in this case noted that Ms. Zimmerman did not want to go forward at the outset, and she has told me that that is not true. So I want to find out if that's a piece of the record to be corrected, or is the criminal complaint still stand as valid in your mind?
Why don't I do, President, do you want to give her preferences?
Yeah. Yes, certainly. So, I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question again?
Sure.
Sorry, the lights.
I sent an email a month ago saying that one part of the criminal complaint referenced that you did not want to go forward soon after this offense occurred, and then you replied that that was not true.
Yes. So there was a great deal of discussion in our first meetings about this supposed phone call that was placed to me. Apparently, there was a one-line question in which apparently it was recorded that I said no to. I don't remember this phone call. We have had great discussions about this apparent phone call and how they recorded a simple one question closing an entire case. I don't recall this phone call. They did bring this up quite a bit at the beginning. I believe that we obviously moved past that part a little bit. But yes, when I did read the article, I was a little upset about the fact that it sounded like I had declined all of this. I hadn't. There was no follow-up with anything with that. If I took a phone call a few months after this horrible incident, I had found out that I was pregnant with our son, who's now 11, a few months after this horrible incident. I had been to numerous doctor's appointments after it, right? Because they force you to go through and be retested and retested again for sexual diseases. I was getting a flood of phone calls. If there was indeed a phone call that asked me one question whether I wanted to move forward with this horrible case, and I was caught off guard and happened to say no, I don't have that on record. And I was never given a phone transcript of this supposed conversation. I don't have anything in writing saying that it was indeed me who answered the phone that day. I don't simply recall ever telling anybody.
I followed up for months with the Minneapolis Police Department. They told me that the rape kit was sent in, which was a bold-faced lie. It never got sent in. It was sitting in a shelf. And my position is, when do the victims get to decide whether someone is prosecuted for a crime that was obviously committed? If a crime has been committed, it's the responsibility of the Justice Department to proceed forward with what evidence they have, and they didn't do any of that.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Ms. Zimmerman has explained what happened right after this, but I think it's also important, as she also said, no matter what is said at the time, no matter how the victim feels at the time or the survivor feels at the time, I can't imagine how traumatic this is. And so it does require repeated inquiry and working with the person to give them time. They, you know, like many types of crimes, when people are thinking about whether they actually want to go through the process, you know, she described what it was like to have a sexual assault kit. It's awful. And so I think we have to understand that people who are the victims of horrendous crimes experience a lot of trauma. and they have a lot of different they can. They didn't in this, she didn't in this case, but they can have a lot of mixed feelings. And so this requires a lot of understanding and compassion and empathy in working with the person who's been the victim to see where they eventually land. Sometimes that's they want to go forward, sometimes it isn't, but that's an individual decision. We as an office work with victims all the time on these issues and really try to be very victim-centered.
Thank you.
Thank you.